A monster-sized hug for the best dad ever. Happy Father's Day. Love you. We love you, Emerson and Graydon. Dad. I'll give you the full experience. Dad, you're pooping? Well, go sit on the potty. Dad, it's a monster. Go sit on the potty. All right. I guess we're getting interrupted here. Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlie Hunt, and it is an absolute honor to be here on Father's Day. And hopefully my message is effective and reaches you and supports the wonderful shepherding you've given me as a youth and even the person I am today. But I want to warn you up front that I'm going to plan on keeping it real with you. Maybe I'll say some of the quiet parts out loud, and it's not all going to be positive. But I want to start by stating it's an absolute joy to be blessed with children, not only the twins that I currently have custody of, but also the young people that I've gotten to work with at the church. My sister didn't like some of my phrasing. She's talking to my nephew about it. All right, I'm going to quickly add a verse from Psalms chapter 127, 3 through 5. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior, the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quivers with them. I find myself blessed in many areas of my life with youth. My workplace gets a new fleet of interns every year who approach the business with excitement instead of bitterness. The church, it's been wonderful to see you guys grow in youth ministry well after my brief tenure as a Sunday school teacher. And finally, my wife are at an age where friends that we had individually are becoming families of friends, and it's just wonderful to see growth. My quiver is full, and I'm excited to share that with you this morning. You can go ahead and put a slide up if you want. And while they put that up, I'll take a moment to introduce our kids. The twins were born April 17th, 2019, which makes them just over 3. For their first year of life, I would refer to them as the boy and the girl. And people at work or my sister would be like, don't they have names? Why do you call them boy and girl? And part of that was because I used to refer to them as boy and girl because I didn't want people to be responsible for remembering my kids' names. I never got super invested in the stories of youth before I actually had to engage with them. So I figured making people remember their names, it wasn't really worth it. And also during the first year, the kids are like furniture that eat and do other stuff, less so as fully functional people with personalities and opinions. I mean, they'd have opinions, but they weren't formed as things you would say as a person. The kids were passive, and they were taking in the world and deciding how they wanted to respond to it and interact with it. And that's really where the name came from. If you got another slide, we can throw it up. But today, I would definitely lead with their names, being Graydon and Emerson. And those names are filled with more meaning each day now that the kids have personalities and that sort of thing. Okay. If you got another slide, we can try that one too. If not, that's fine. Our boy Graydon is a very sweet young man. He loves to sing, and he's a bit of a show-off, just like his dad. Oh, we do have some. Okay, I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong thing. The other day, I took him to the park, very similar to the park you see there, and they were doing their own thing, enjoying it. They were the only ones there. And so I sat on the swing and just kind of cooled off for a bit, and I feel this little hand tap me on the knee, and he says, "Daddy, please put your phone away." And it really hit me in the heart right before Father's Day that he actually wanted my attention, so that was cool. And also that I was neglecting my children. Our daughter, Emerson, is extremely smart and perceptive. She is aware almost to the point of annoyance, much like her mother. She will scan a room, like when she goes over to her Auntie Ruthie's house, she will scan a room, and if any decorations have changed, if anything has been moved, she will immediately go to it and demand answers as to why it changed, and then tell you about what it used to be. Go ahead and throw up another slide if you got one. We have gotten to the point with kids where we start to expect behaviors and actions out of them, and some of the areas of expectation have been rough, pretty rough. The expectation in this photo was use your spoon, and Graydon had another plan. Current issues, not wanting to go to bed issues, potty training, listening, typical stuff. However, sometimes the volume and the emotion has been a lot, especially with boy and girl responding entirely differently to the same issue. Sometimes Emerson won't decide on what to wear or take our suggestions. Grading can be overwhelmed and can't compose himself. And finally, my wife is sometimes upset that everything in the house is sticky from kid hands. All valid concerns. And me, I don't have problems. But if I were to have problems, it might be about just the volume and emotion of everyone else. These issues are small, they're common. But when they happen at a volume, it can be deafening, and it can throw an emergency brake or an ejector seat into any plans or goals that you had for the day. So the family is great, and the family is overwhelming, but it's not Family Day. It's Father's Day, so I'm going to talk about me, and that talk is going to start with a self-assessment of my parenting. I'm going to read off 10 things that loving fathers do for their children and give myself a letter grade for each. Some of you might see these things on the internet called like tier lists, like best Fortnite skins. And it's just like grading, in school, except above an A, there's an S tier, which is like an 11 out of 10. So 10 loving things fathers do for their children, and then followed by a grade for me. Loving fathers love their children's mother. I'll give myself a C. Loving fathers love them unconditionally. I'll give myself a B. Loving fathers grow up. I'll give myself a D. Loving fathers are present. I'm a B. They provide, C. Discipline, D. Value education, B. Raise them to leave, D. Teach them to take responsibility, C. Teach them to love this life, B. So you average all that together, and I'm currently a C, C-minus father. And I'm still smiling. That may strike you, as some of you, as a rough grade, and some of you that might strike as maybe I had some extra credit that you didn't know about on there. But I'm happy with it. Every day, I'm out there doing the dad thing, and with practice comes progress. I'm evolving on some stuff, holding the line at others. Fatherhood is a job, and I'm blessed to have it. Thinking back to the 10 things that loving fathers do for their children, I think the author missed a few. There are 3 things, additional things, that loving fathers do. That I want to talk about these things, and unlike the dad categories above, I will not be satisfied or happy with anything less than an S-tier ranking. There are many perfect examples of these things that loving fathers do in the Bible, and the perfect examples are lived through the father of Christianity, Jesus Christ. You can put a slide up for me if you want. All right. Loving fathers show their kids how to see God and be seen by God. Quickly reading from Matthew 9, 10 through 13. While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked the disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said, "It is not the healthy that need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but the sinners." In the 3 years of his earthly ministry, Jesus did not just heal people and then go die on the cross. He immersed himself in the people so that they may see God and be reminded that they are seen by God. As fathers, we need to help our children understand and see God in all situations, while also helping children understand that they are seen by God in good times and bad. When my kids are flipping out over something, it's typically about more than what the current thing is. Right before I left, my daughter really wanted to get into the fridge. And sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, we typically every day we have an argument over what she's going to wear. But her issue is not with the clothes. It is feeling like she is not in control or seen as more than a problem. So if the wardrobe disagreement is all we are responding to as parents, then Emerson will decide that this point is life or death. However, when we make it just part of a small part of your day, small part of your life, and surround that issue, point of contention, with love, it tends to go down easier. This is one of the reasons why I think a father's job is to help keep their family, keep in perspective, that they are more than the current issue, and they deserve to be seen as beautiful children of God. We read in the Gospels that Jesus working with troubled or unfortunate people. And I believe that in those interactions, the Lord's acknowledgement of them as a person, the individual person, was just as powerful as the healing or the solving of their current affliction. Just as we remind our families that they are seen by God, we need to teach them to seek God in both their actions and their outlook. As loud as our current issues are, God's grace is louder. But keeping that in perspective is a struggle. The time for prayer, meaningful conversations, and compassionate interaction is critical, both in and out of the household, now more than ever. Number 12, loving fathers teach their kids to serve God and be served by God. Matthew 9:35 through 38. Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field." I don't believe Jesus was telling his followers to work just because he needed the help. Christians are asked to serve because acts of service build investment into the community, and it also strengthens relationships. It also shows others how they can be of service and not just live a passive existence. I struggle right now with teaching my kids how to serve. I'll give you a common morning scenario. We get the kids dressed, and hopefully it's without any tears, theirs or mine. In a rush to get them to daycare without incident, we sprint past the messy room, we ignore the disgusting lunch table and the hazardous play area, and then I'll typically drive them to daycare, and I'm just cranking Coco Melon or Simple songs as loud as possible just to bombard them with music and happiness and just try to get them to daycare without incident. And then I check them into daycare. Oh, that was hot, sorry. And I exhale, because we then get a 10-hour break from parenting. Then the calls come in. Graydon won't stop climbing on the furniture. Emerson refuses to calm down unless her parents come back. My first thought upon hearing this is that I need to go back to daycare and fix everything. My second thought is that my kids are perfect, and how dare daycare tell me otherwise? And then finally, I exhale again and realize that a father's job is to help their children serve God and be served by God. In pushing them past the issues of messy rooms and rough behavior, I am reducing their investment into the world and the opportunities that God has given them. Helping our children take responsibility and have relevant consequences helps build a connection that will eventually get them engaged enough to serve others and serve God. A small thing we started doing, like this is, we probably should have done this like at 6 months or whatever. But like since I have two of them, if they both need coats, I give both the coats to one kid, and then the other kid goes cold. Kidding. I give both the coats to one kid, and then I ask Emerson, can you give Graydon his coat? Very simple. I do that with bottles. I do that with whatever I'm giving them. One gets two, and the has to serve the other. And very small, but it's gotten the kids less grabby and less pushy because they're starting to realize that there's an actual connection to other people. They don't live in a singular existence, but we're here to serve others and be served. I look forward to my kids growing in service and being served by others and eventually serving God through the church. My challenge to you as a congregation is to invest in spaces and programs where young people can serve and be served by each other. Not just a youth program where they get dropped off and exist, but a place where connections are needed because that's how you find value and grow. All right, number 13. A loving father teaches his children to share God and be shared by God. Matthew 10, verses 5 through 14, selected verses. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. There you go. Proclaim this message. The kingdom of heaven is near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, and drive out demons. Freely you have been received, freely give. As you enter a home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest upon it. If not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. In these early years, I get the privilege, responsibility, assignment to control where my kids go and who they interact with. And I'm losing those privileges quickly through my own volition, or they just figured out that they can go through the dog door. So that's lessened some control that I had, or some passive control that I had, because now they can get out to the garage in the backyard. And you only hear the worst case scenarios in the news, and with COVID, it's been natural for us to keep our kids a little bit closer than we're comfortable with. Eventually, I'm going to have to let go of my kids and give them to the world, and we need to trust and empower them to share the good news in their own way. We need to help them understand the power of being positive and decent human beings while sharing that message. This is going to be tough with the continued complications of life. And when they mess up or get rebuked, we need to teach them that it is not the end, and their journey of sharing and being shared by God will continue. Just as we challenge our children to share God, we need to allow our children to be shared by God. This sharing may be happening in areas where we're not comfortable with. For example, we were at the park the other day, and my daughter ran away from us. I wasn't on my phone at that time. She ran away from us to greet 3 people that were sitting on a bench not speaking English and introduce herself. And my daughter's really shy. She doesn't do that, but she decided that that was her opportunity. And is that something I would have done? No, I totally wouldn't. But my daughter knows better than I do. Emerson knows that decency and purity of intent are the universal languages that God has given us. As I pulled her back and apologized, I could tell the young men enjoyed their interaction, and it reminded me that we're all people looking for connection. Things that loving fathers teach their children. Number 11, see God and allow yourself to be seen by God. Number 12, serve God. Allow yourself to be served by God. Number 13, share God. Allow yourself to be shared by God. These are some of the long-term goals that have helped me keep fatherhood in perspective. And when I was working here as a youth leader, Sunday school teacher, I wish I would have reminded myself more of those, because as Craig, I believe, mentioned and was in the children's time, it is not just a biological father to biological kids, but this church was a big part of the fatherhood experience for me. And maybe I had an impact on some of the people that came up under me. And we need to understand that we're not here to do it for them, but we're here to help them see, serve, and share. And I say long-term goals because these aren't milestones to be achieved, but directions on where we should be guiding our families in. Whether you're a father or not, I hope these goals give you some direction, just as preparing this sermon guided me. And even in this rough patch of parenthood, there's a lot of joy and a lot of roughness. I would not trade being a father for anything. I hope the fathers out there have a great Father's Day, and that everyone hearing this message understands that they are loved and appreciated and seen by God, served by God, and hopefully shared by God. Thank you for having me.